My teenage era was brought to an abrupt end through a near-death car accident where I actually did die in the car accident itself at the age of 19. And what actually initiated even that was approximately 2 weeks prior to that, my very first love, my very first girlfriend, who I just started to date, and I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks into the dating, I had expressed at one particular evening a great deal of romantic love for her, but in a very poetic fashion. And I felt my heart being activated like never before at the time. And I was very aware of that also. And then we got out of the car after getting home, went up into her house, and she started to pull back. And I could see it. It's like I could read her completely, and I could feel it. And at that point, she didn't want to see me for a little bit. She wanted to have a bit of a rest. But inside, I knew that she had recoil because of the fear of love, the actual fear of love. And yet we were quite resonant together. And I went home, and the following weekend, my buddies, my male friends, they wanted to go to the mountain region to a party, just with all guys, teenage guys, and they wanted to go on a bit of a drinking binge, so to speak. And I went up with them. I went up with them on that weekend because she didn't want to be with me, my girlfriend. And I wasn't feeling like drinking, and I wasn't a very big drinker to begin with. And that evening, every glass or every mouthful I had tasted bitter. It didn't taste like that nice, typical beer drink, right? Because I could feel it was so contrary to the taste of the love that I had experienced by the intimacy moment with my girlfriend. So coming down from that mountain region was that night when I had the car accident. And to this day, I have no memory of what actually happened. I have no memory of hitting another car. I only remember waking up out of the car accident with the ambulance drivers putting me on a stretcher. And then I started speaking to them about love and about what the world needs. And they started smiling and like chuckling as if like they assumed I could have been maybe drunk or in a euphoric space. And at that moment, I could see there was a faint, hazy gold light everywhere, all around us. But I was speaking from a whole different state of consciousness. So from that day onwards, I felt like I was a 3-year-old child in a 19-year-old body all over again, and having to adapt to a 19-year-old body all the way into my adult life, still remaining with that same vulnerability, openness, tenderness of a 3-year-old heart. And my mother knew that was the case on some level. So she overprotected me between myself and my father quite considerably. And she knew that I was having a lot of spontaneous spiritual and mystical experiences during the next 3 years while still being at home up until the age of 22. And they were quite considerable experiences that were occurring during that time also. So there's a lot of acclimating to this new state, you could say, a lot of recalibration taking place, adjusting to this adult world, looking through the eyes of a 3-year-old, but now I'm 19, going on to 20, 21, now 22. And between the age of 21 and 22, because of all this, I began a 12 months mediumship and psychic development course so that I could actually open up to this new sensitivity and use it in a better capacity, you could say, a more dedicated capacity to be able to be of service to other human beings. It was very natural for me then to consider that I was now on the planet, literally on planet Earth, to be here of service to fellow human beings. That's how I felt. And during that time, I also started practicing a very ancient meditation from India called Tratak, which is all about gazing at a candle flame. And this I would do of a night time, just before going to sleep. And then I would blow out the candle at the end of the meditation, close my eyes, watch the light within. Still the flame was still there flickering inside, or it was going very still, turning into a round ball inside my forehead, sometimes going into a pinpoint, and then all of a sudden expanding out. And after a few months of this happening, it kept expanding. It never stopped, expanded, it intensified within my forehead, you could say, within my third eye. But then this one particular night, it kept expanding, intensifying, started filling the whole body. And I was very aware. It was so tangible. It was mind-boggling, to say the least. It was really mind-boggling. And I was already prepared how to breathe, to be able to handle this possibility. And of course, there's a little bit of a heart speeding up happening, because it's outside of the norm. And my body became filled with the light. Then all of a sudden, the body form disappeared. And in that moment, when the body form disappeared, I became aware of being consciousness, of being awareness, sitting, you could say, within this formless light that was so bright, beyond the description of physical brightness, and within that brightness, there was a pure quality of bliss, which wasn't physical. It was just pure, the bliss of light, the bliss of awareness, and it was extraordinary. In that moment, I felt like I'm ready to disappear. I'm ready to disappear into that forever. And some part of me possibly did want to as well, because of that rejection from 3 years ago with my very first love, my very first girlfriend. But at that moment, there was some sort of existential indication that no, it's not time to go right now. It's not time to disappear forever. I have work ahead of me. And so I had to remember how to come back into the body. There was no sense of body form, no sense of breathing, no sense of a heartbeat. So I had to just somehow remember how to move the hands and then take a breath, and then slowly came back into form, then lie down on the bed and just said, "Good night, world." That's it. So from that point onwards, that gave me like a guide stick, you could say, knowing that is a reality, that when thine two eyes become one, thy body will be filled with light. When thy two eyes, in other words, when duality dissolves into that sense of oneness, one consciousness, thy body will be filled with light. It will be revealed. The inner light will be revealed. It was absolutely tangible revelation for me. So that's what I realized I had to bring fellow human beings and to my family.